Hey there, friends. Welcome to your extra credit build discussion update on the Fat Man. And as you can see, we've started adding some visual elements to make it look more like the Fat Man since we got the mechanical part pretty down pat. I did make some more alterations to the mechanical part though. The most prominent one is that the rubber band, well, it's right down there. There are two of them now, so I just doubled it up to give me a little more oomph. What I learned is that right here where it connects, I can actually slide that back to get even more stretch out of it, but we're kind of at the limit where if it's any more forceful, our ammo will topple. So it's kind of cool that I can fine tune this and tweak it so I get just enough oomph and it still sails all pretty. That's very important to me that it sails. Really nice. And if it whistled, that would be good too. I might put a Nerf dart in here and see if it can whistle. But we got that going really well. I updated a little bit more in the front here. Right here where the rubber band attaches, it used to attach underneath and vertical. I changed it to horizontal and up top here. So it's got a little more room to operate. It also, the rubber bands here, when they were rotated 90 degrees, were pulling to one side. So this keeps everything centered. That seems to work really well. You can't see it under here, but I also made a bigger pulley. I just turned it on the lathe out of aluminum. So it's got a bigger thing to rotate around. That's just to keep the rubber bands moving more smoothly. We can see under here, if I flip it over, there's the new part I added. I also added some fender washers to guide the rubber bands to my pulley. And that seems to be working out really well. Also installed the handle so I can hold it for real now, and everything works really well. It's 3D printed, reinforced with steel rods, so they're nice and strong. Over here is the shoulder pad, and that is attached with screws through this piece of EVA foam, a piece of plastic, and then a couple of standoffs, or 6 of them actually, that are threaded down to those rails. So the shoulder pad is connected directly to the main structural element, those pads. So it'll be nice and comfy on my shoulder. I can also unscrew this and remove it if I need to get at all the guts down there, all the mechanical pieces. In a similar fashion, all the side panels of foam were attached to the rail. Again, there's a piece of plastic there that is screwed to the rail, and then the foam was just glued to that. These holes right here, all these little holes are access points so that I can take an Allen wrench and go in there and actually unscrew it. It would be a bit of a pain, but I could remove all this if I had to get at things like the firing mechanism right here. Last week, some of you had questions about the slipperiness of the rails and recommended a Teflon tape. I did actually use this UHMW tape. It's on the bottom of this though. So it's running against our rails when I pull this back, but you can't see it because it's under there and it's taped to this. But it seems to help a lot in reducing drag and this thing sliding across the rails. The good news is we are at the limit of how much force we can apply to our ordnance. So friction and rubber bands no longer need to be any better than they already are. So that is fantastic. Speaking of ordnance, we did some tests. The first test that we did was with just the hollow football-shaped portion without the tail on it. Yeah, it kind of wobbled. Obviously, didn't go exactly according to plan. So of course we attached the fins to see how much of a difference those made in flying our little mini nuke. It kind of took a quick dip down, didn't it? Boo. There we go. It almost made it into the bathroom. So I think on that first shot, and we can review the footage, but I think when I fired it, the kick from this thing actually caused the ball to go weird like that. So I had to be more firm when I'm doing my test shots. That seemed to work really well. I'm actually quite surprised at how well the fins help guide the nuke through the air. But we have some other things that we want to try. Specifically, this one that Brittany filled with expanding foam. This weighs about 10 times as much as this. So it is quite heavy, but maybe that's exactly what it needs. Only one way to find out. 3, 2, 1. Oh, boy, it sailed really well, but it really did not go nearly as far. So the hollow one, I think, could be a little bit heavier. Not 10 times heavier, but just a little bit heavier. To add a little weight to the original light ball here, or mini nuke, I've got some fishing sinkers, just lead, and these weigh as much as this does. So by adding it, we're going to double the weight, but we're not making it 10 times heavier. Also, I'm going to put it just right on the nose. That way, hopefully, it leads with all that weight and sails true. This doesn't need to be pretty, it's just for a test. If this works, we could even cut a hole in the bottom of this, pour them in there, and then pour epoxy in there so that they're glued inside the tip of this. That's probably good. Let's give it a shot. Firing in 3, 2, 1. That seemed to fly a little bit straighter. It's about the same distance as the original one. I'm gonna grab that and try again. I think if I aim a little higher, then we can get it to go further. Second try, aiming a little higher. 3, 2, 1. Again, the distance was similar, but it just seems to fly a little bit truer. So we'll probably glue some of those weights in the tip of that to help out. But I think we're pretty much at the limit of what we can accomplish with this delivery device and that foam ordnance. But I'm pretty happy with that. Something else that I want to try, I have this large back plate here that is designed to push the entire nuke forward. But this is a little obtrusive for the look of the Fat Man, so I made a shorter one. Now this only pushes the bottom half of the nuke, but maybe that's enough. I don't know. So I'm going to screw that on there and we'll go test fire it. 3, 2, 1. That went all wacky. It wanted to go to the stars. Well, it went kind of the way I thought it would. Since it was able to tip as it pushed, it just went straight up in the air. And then because it has this weight on that, it went straight down. So I do need to use the taller back plate for that to get the trajectory that I want. The good news is I could always swap out the shorter one whenever I want just to make it look proper, or I can even take it off entirely. Hence the utility of these really cool fixtures that I have for the rail system. So that worked out okay. I learned a lot and I'm ready to go add some more stuff. Yeah. Progress has been steady and monumental this week. I'm excited because the rest of this build is mostly just making it look like the Fat Man, which means I don't have to do a lot of experimenting. It's just plain old foam smithing. We got a pretty good idea where this thing needs to be. But of course, if you have any suggestions, we're going to be working on this more next week. So let us know in the comments. If you have any questions about the build or anything else you want to know, then let us know in the comments. We're here to share this with you and get feedback so that you get to enjoy it, and we get to ultimately have a much more satisfying finished product. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks, of course, for the support. You guys are fantastic. Couldn't do this without you, so you keep that up. And I hope you're looking forward to seeing this thing finished because we are getting closer and closer to the completion, and I'm getting more and more excited. Thanks again so much. I guess we'll catch you in the next part of this build. Pew!